Jiro here for Umbra Games with a review of Far Cry 2, played on Xbox 360, but also available on PlayStation 3 and PC. Yeah, so I'm a little behind on my Far Cry games, but sometimes games just beg to be played in order. After playing the very poor console port of the first Far Cry, which from what I understand is not even a reflection of the game, or a far cry from the game, that PC players received. It did put a little bit of a slowdown with me moving on with the series, but with Far Cry 3 and 4 receiving the praise they did, I decided it was finally time to start taking some steps in that direction. Far Cry 2 takes place in a fictional African country whose government has collapsed, leaving two warring factions fighting over control. There's the United Front for Liberation and Labor, aka UFLL, and the Alliance for Popular Resistance, aka APR. You, as a mercenary, are dropped in to eliminate an arms dealer known as the Jackal, who allegedly is supplying both sides of the fight with weapons. Through your journey to find the Jackal, you take on jobs from both factions, a third group called the Underground, as well as multiple side missions with various rewards. Far Cry 2 is an open-world, mission-based, first-person shooter, providing you with two vast maps of jungle and desert with multiple missions and objectives. At first, it kind of seemed like the main story missions were going to be built on a choice system with consequences, but it slowly unwinds to be like most open-world mission-based games, where you end up eventually completing a path that involves both sides. As you proceed through the game, you'll find opportunities to recruit what they call buddies. Your primary buddy will come and rescue you once, should you run out of life. Often after sleeping in a safe house, it more or less reloads your buddy so that he'll come and get you once again. Now, the cutscene that ensues when you go down and your buddy rescues you feels really long, ending with him covering you while you pull a bullet out of one of your limbs. I'm not sure what determines the exact placement of your recovery with this character after the cutscene, as once or twice he'd revive me right in the middle of a nest of enemies, making it nearly impossible to escape whole, and I'd end up using my healing items pulling them up off the ground repeatedly. But if you don't do that, your buddies can and will die permanently. Now, your secondary buddy that you have at a time will give you a call on your cell phone every time you take a main mission and offer an alternate pathway to completion. It seemed it usually just kind of required an extra objective though, and I'm not really sure what effect it had on the outcome, and it kind of seems like a bit of a waste. It was actually difficult at all times to see how any of the things I was doing to help the nation in its civil war were truly helping, as it was often more death and destruction, blowing up pipelines, stealing diamonds, or burning valuable medicines. Maybe this was Ubisoft Montreal's point about war. The game has a tendency to pop up save dialogue when you complete your objective, even when there are still troops around. I mean, of course you want to save your game in case you get involved in an unusual ambush or a random mortar hits you, but the mid-combat break can be awkward. The story itself is a bit winding and confusing, keeping track of several very African names with betrayal and setup, and voice actors or audio editors that don't understand how punctuation's supposed to work. There are a few different types of side missions available. The first, well, not considered main, or side really for that matter, are quests for the underground movement. These involve taking travel papers to a doctor and his family in exchange for malaria medicine. The reason this really isn't a side quest is because, well, you're the one with malaria. You have to keep a constant supply of pills to clear up your daily symptoms. Every game day or so, your vision will go yellow and the contextual left bumper button will pop up so you can take your pill. If you run out, you collapse and you're sent back to the hub town. I completed all underground missions and had what sounded like a couple of pills left in the jar, so I'm not sure what you do if you take too long and have no source of pills. Now, the illogical part of all of this is that you actually destroy the medicine that completely cures malaria during a main mission. You're right there. You could have grabbed it and not had this issue anymore, but no. The second type of missions are received via radio tower phones and seem to always be random assassinations. There are also arms dealer quests triggered by the men in the armory that you have to go to and destroy a random convoy. Each one of these completed opens new guns for you to purchase via a super clunky interface resembling an old PC. The odd thing about this one is I did a few until I found a gun I really liked and then just proceeded forward with the game. At a certain main mission point, it gave me an achievement for completing all convoy missions even though I hadn't, and it proceeded to unlock all of the rest of the firearms for me. It's just the problem is with the seeming randomness of targets and the distance and time it takes to travel to these locations for the convoys and the assassinations, these latter two types of side missions just feel like bland filler. In addition to the side quest content, there are also guard posts to scout, safe houses to unlock, and diamond briefcases to find. Guard posts are scattered all over the map, often at crossroads. You can use a monocular to scout out the placement of vehicles or mounted weapons, and each guard post also has an asset, either explosives, health, or ammunition. In order to scout the post to count towards completion, you have to locate that particular asset. There were a couple times where I spent minutes searching each structure, trying to find the first aid kit on the wall or an ammo box, and it would just come up empty. So I finally quit trying. Guards at the post will respawn very quickly too, sometimes when you're just down the road. Now, safe houses are unlocked by taking out the 2 or 3 enemies in the area, although sometimes they wander away, and though you may not realize it until you're traveling down the road and take them out, causing the message that the safe house is unlocked to pop. Finally, there are briefcases abandoned by their couriers. As you navigate around the maps, you can press the back button to bring up an auto-updating map and GPS. The GPS has a green light on it that will blink more frequently the closer you are to a case, and go solid when you're pointing in its direction. Each zoomed-in area of the map tells you how many cases are in that area, which helps the completionists. The diamonds you obtain from these cases are the same ones with which you're paid for taking on the main missions, and are used in the armory to purchase new firearms, accuracy and reliability upgrades, as well as repair manuals for vehicles and maximum health pack upgrades. Close to the beginning of the game, I was stopping often to seek out the cases, but when they were providing 1 or 2 diamonds each, and some of the main quests were given up to 40, it removed a little of my drive. I think I ended up finding around 60. Now, some of these cases are on ruined buildings, and it would take some first-person platforming to get there. I think your character has probably a 2 to 3 inch vertical, and is desperately lacking a climb-up contextual action. Not to mention, a couple of the cases had really finicky open positions, sometimes not matching up with the case itself. You can hold 3 weapons in addition to your machete that can be quickly switched between with a D-pad. Your primary weapons consist of shotguns, assault rifles, and snipers. The sidearms are pistols and Uzis. And for special weapons, you can choose among rocket launchers, grenade launchers, and heavy machine guns, to name a few. The weapons you unlock will always be available in the armory, marked by a gun on the map. You'll often need to revisit an armory, even if you don't want to change guns, because Far Cry 2 has a weapon degradation system. As you use a gun or pick up an enemy, you can tell its condition by looking at how dirty or scratched up it is. After continued use, the gun will start jamming on you, forcing you to hit the X button to let an unjamming animation take place before you can continue firing. While it is realistic, well, I'll let you decide how you feel about it. While I'm sure it's probably a console issue alone, there's an aim assist that can be turned on or off. While Ubisoft Montreal did a great job with all of the shrubbery and foliage that can be found, it turns out enemies can see through it, but you can't. When you press the left trigger to iron sight or to aim your firearm, with auto aim on, it will help center your gun on enemies you can't see, which, while kind of annoying when you know where your target is, can be helpful for the times that you don't. Auto aim is especially annoying though when using a weapon with zoom. But there were just way too many occasions where I couldn't pick out the enemies from the environment that shutting it off was a huge detriment, only finding enemies by looking at the red pointer that shows you which direction you just took a bullet from. The AI was kind of sketchy too, which almost made targets harder to hit as they ventured onto paths that didn't quite make logical sense. Contrary to the times, they would just crouch out in the open and do nothing. While the map size in Far Cry 2 is pretty impressive, often objectives are spread too far out, requiring a lot of time traveling to get to your destination. In other open world games, there are generally multiple paths, but Far Cry 2 just has so many mountains and valleys, often limiting your ability to travel off the road. There is a fast travel system with buses, but even those stations are so spread out that it's often a trek just to get there. I know with some games I personally complain that fast travel makes us soft, but I think that's also an inverse relationship with how enjoyable world navigation is. Far Cry 2 would have benefited with fast travel between safe houses. But see, also playing into this is the sheer number of aforementioned guard posts, how often the soldiers respond, and how their jeeps and trucks are so much faster than yours, even though you stole it from them, that they'll catch you and start shooting at you no matter what. When you hear a vehicle starting, you have to press the A button to get onto the mounted weapon on the back of your car if you have one, shoot the soldiers or their vehicle a ridiculous amount of times, which sometimes seem like they're shielded incorrectly by the vehicle. Sometimes you'll watch them warp out of the driver's seat, and then you have to finish them while they're standing on top of the vehicle. And then you get out of your vehicle, open the hood, and use the ratchet on the miracle healing bolt on the engine to repair your car, jump back in it, and then watch for the next Jeep. This gameplay loop gets monotonous very quickly. Now, I had to do some research to see what multiplayer options were available, but the service is now defunct. Seems like there were some standard versus mode options, but at least on console I was getting the Ubisoft server unavailable message. And I'll keep hoping that a better product came out for PC, but Far Cry 2 on console, while having a large playing area, good weapon variety, greatly detailed environments, it just suffered from bad AI, some questionable hit detection, some tedious gameplay loops, too much travel time for objectives, some glitchy behavior and stiff controls, with a mission structure that just gives the facade of choice while not showing many results for it. Rated as a first-person open-world shooter, it hits just below an average game at 44 out of 100. This is Jiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching. One of these days I'll get caught up on these AAA series. Subscribe to stay tuned or follow me on Twitter @Umbra Games.